Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. We're learning more details about a shooting last week on a driveway in Brampton that left one man dead and another in hospital. Peel police today identifying the man who was fatally shot as 26-year-old Pritpal Singh. Greg Ross brings us an exclusive interview now with the survivor, his brother, who remains in hospital tonight and tells CBC Toronto the siblings were mistakenly targeted.
From his hospital bed, Pritpal Singh shows us where a bullet passed through his arm.
Coming from hit from this side and it comes from this side.
He was shot last Thursday, standing with his younger brother, Pritpal Singh, in the driveway of the Brampton home where they rented an apartment. Pritpal had just moved here from India 6 months ago to live with Pritpal. He came as a foreign exchange student and was preparing to start courses in plumbing at Humber College next month. On Thursday, Pritpal saw his first snowfall, which was covering their car.
He just asked me, he don't know how to clean it. He just came new and it's the first snow for him. So I just teach him how to clean it, right?
While they were standing in the driveway, clearing snow off of the car, another vehicle pulled up beside them. 2 men got out and opened fire. I
just ran away. I have a perspective like my brother gonna also run, but I only think I saw the crackers, lightning behind me, and I ran towards the house.
It wasn't until he got inside the house that he realized his brother wasn't with him. When Pritpal went back out to check on him, the gunman had driven away and Pritpal was laying in the driveway. He had been shot multiple times at close range.
I see my brother is on the floor and he was still breathing a little bit. I tried to call 911 twice and it's busy. Both times it's busy.
He attempted to take his brother to the hospital himself, but it was then he realized that he had also been shot in the arm.
Second things come into my mind like let's lift him and put in my car and take it to the hospital. And the thing is like my arm not give me a power to lift up him.
His next thought was to get help from the neighbors.
I try to knock the doors, neighbor doors, the people just in front of our house. So I try to knock their doors, I screaming all the way in that area. Nobody come to help me. I was alone at that time and feel helpless because I didn't know how I gonna save my brother's life.
It turns out somebody did get through to 911 and emergency crews began arriving a short time later, but it was too late for Pritpal.
All I can say, I wanna save him. That's it. I try to find a way where I can wake up him.
Pritpal believes that he and his brother were the victims of mistaken identity.
I think even police believe it, soon gonna you come to know it's a mistaken identity. I'm innocent and my brother is innocent.
While police aren't saying who they believe the intended target was, CBC News has learned that the owners of the home where the 2 brothers were living also own a home in Caledon. There were reports of gunshots that same night at the Caledon home as well. Police say the 2 shootings are connected. Greg Ross, CBC News, Brampton.
Toronto police are looking for suspects following a fatal shooting overnight in North York. The victim found dead in his own driveway near Allen Road and Lawrence Avenue. The killing believed to be targeted. Ali Chiasson has the latest.
Fairholme Avenue is a quiet street, so an execution-style murder happening here is really shocking for these neighbors.
I'm worried. I'm scared. I'm scared because, this first time it happens here. I'm 55 years here and I don't have any problem.
It's here that 69-year-old Mariano DeMarco was found shot dead in the driveway. Neighbors tell us DeMarco owned the house, which has a series of apartments and multiple tenants.
There's it's about almost 10 people, I think, living there.
This woman is one of them, and she was woken up by a frantic housemate calling out for the landlord.
But the way that he slammed it so hard, the other door to go upstairs, because he was trying to get a hold of my landlord, and he was calling him, and he wouldn't answer. And because he's seen a dead body already, so he was thinking it was probably him, especially he was right beside the van.
It was DeMarco, who's described as a low-key guy.
He's very quiet. He keeps to himself a lot.
What neighbors don't know is why he'd be shot and killed. His body was found in the driveway at 4 o'clock in the morning, and police say he was discovered by a parking officer handing out tickets in the area.
And this parking officer came across a male with no vital signs. It was apparent that he was suffering from a gunshot wound, and first responders made their way to the area quickly, and he was pronounced deceased at the scene.
We don't know how long he was in the driveway before his body was discovered. Police are hoping that if neighbors didn't see anything, maybe their home security cameras did. This woman who lives across the street says she heard a suspicious loud bang hours earlier.
At around 10:30, I heard a big bang. So I immediately came to the door. So I wasn't sure what it was. And then I heard a car speeding away. So I made my husband go out to look because I wasn't. I was nervous that someone threw something at our house, or I don't know what it was. He didn't see anything. It was really dark. So closed the door and that was it.
Police are here canvassing for witnesses and video. And to the suspect or suspects, they warned.
We've got a strong team of investigators working on this case. We have forensic officers that have done a meticulous job collecting evidence at the scene, and we're putting the pieces together. So contact your lawyer and turn yourself in.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
A woman is dead and a man has been charged with murder after a shooting in Toronto's East End.
Officers located a female in her 30s that had a gunshot wound, and they immediately started life-saving measures. Officers also located and arrested a male in his 20s and recovered a firearm. The female victim was transported to a local trauma center, but unfortunately she succumbed to her injuries and was pronounced deceased.
It happened just before 7 o'clock on Sunday night. Police have identified the victim as 34-year-old Alicia Brooks, adding that she and the suspect knew each other. 34-year-old Aaron Shea is facing 1 count of first-degree murder. Toronto City staff moved in to dismantle the remainder of a homeless encampment at Front and Spadina today. Residents and businesses in the area had long raised concerns over the encampment at Clarence Square Park, many of them expressing relief today following the clearing. Dale Medukduk has this story.
I hope they're all have shelters. That's number one. And I'm relieved to see the green space again. I know it's not green, it's mud.
Eileen Gray lives in the Soho residences next to Clarence Square Park. She's part of a local advocacy group that had been calling for the park to be cleared after an encampment was set up more than 2 years ago.
As much as anything, it was the mess. There was a tremendous amount of rubbish all the time. And of course, when the wind blew, the rubbish went everywhere, all over.
Local councillor Osman Malik says daily cleanups by city staff resulted in over 89,000 kilograms of material being removed from the park. Neighbors have alleged harassment and violence over the years. There have also been multiple fires. These dog owners who access the park have mixed feelings about the situation.
We came back last night and we were surprised to see the encampment gone. It was a pleasant surprise, honestly, because we actually felt a bit unsafe as well, roaming around this park.
It's just a sad situation to see as well, you know. We live quite close to here, but like as we say, we were never there was no bother. There was, there wasn't any dramas or anything. Yeah, we never witnessed anything like that.
Part of the reason why it took so long to clear this park is the city has moved away from police enforcement and is focused on getting people indoors. There were weekly visits from support workers to Clarence Square Park, and throughout the years they've moved 11 people into permanent housing and referred 40 indoors.
I hope the people who are relocated, they find a better place.
It didn't look great, and I think it's more important where those people have gone.
This clearing comes as the Ford government is tabling legislation to give municipalities the tools to clear encampments.
We want encampments gone. We want people to be able to enjoy their parks again.
I think Ford is right. I think we do have to clean up the parks, clean up the rubbish, but importantly, we have to give people places to live.
As for what's next for Clarence Square Park, city staff will be clearing it up throughout the week. Community safety teams will be on site for the next month to prevent any new encampments, and come spring, the city will redo the grass and work to restore the fountain. Dale Medukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
The union representing workers at a downtown safe injection site held a press conference at City Hall today, speaking out against layoff notices issued to employees at the site.
By eliminating these positions, the city is dismantling a critical piece of its public health strategy to address the opioid crisis. These are the very workers who prevent overdoses, provide essential supports, and connect people to the care they need.
Earlier this month, QP Local 79 was notified that the city plans to remove every position at the Works supervised consumption site. And that includes 4 permanent community health officers and 24 temporary harm reduction workers. Toronto Public Health says they have requested funding in next year's operating budget for several staff positions, including at the Works. But the final decision on whether those workers will be included is not expected until February. To Syria now, where people are facing a new reality and an uncertain future. Rebels are securing control of the country following their overthrow of Bashar al-Assad's totalitarian regime. Assad and his family are now in Russia. Today, the head of HTS, the rebel group that captured Damascus, met with the regime's prime minister. Now, the PM says he's ready to hand over to the transitional government while warning the rebel leader the practices of his administration can't be abandoned entirely if Syria is to continue functioning. Now, the GTA is home to many Syrian people and refugees who have strong ties to the region. Chris Glover spoke with some in the community about how they are reacting to the end of the Assad regime.
Zach Al-Muqdad can't stop smiling today, even while working at his restaurant, Aleppo Kebab, in Ajax.
We are all shocked, like we are in a dream. So yesterday I went to sleep and I was, I wake up to the phone, if it's real or not, what's happening.
He fled Syria in 2012 after the war broke out and says even well before that, life under Bashar al-Assad and his family was relentlessly dangerous and oppressive.
We knew as Syrians, the right is gonna win one day. But Bashar al-Assad is gonna leave Syria this way, day and night. It's unbelievable, and we are so happy. We are so happy.
Finally now able to taste new freedoms, like his first open conversation with his brother back in Syria in over a decade.
So till yesterday, so he was confident and confirmed that Bashar al-Assad is not there. So then he spoke to us openly, so because he was really scared.
But it was scenes like this of thousands of political prisoners in Syria in reportedly torturous conditions being freed that was the most overwhelming.
This is the best for me. The best moment when you see all those prisoners, they are out of the prison, out of the jail.
This is what brings most joy to Syrians. We're talking about probably hundreds of thousands of political prisoners. I don't know a Syrian family that does not have someone who was thrown into jail for no reason.
At her Mississauga home, Bayan Khatib says her father was imprisoned in Syria decades ago, and since fleeing at age 7, she's never been able to go back. This was the moment she and other local Syrian Canadian activists learned the Assad regime had fallen.
We get news that Assad has fled the country, and at that moment, our hearts couldn't bear the immense joy. The Syrian people have been waiting for this moment, not since 2011, for decades and decades.
Their joy joined by thousands at Mississauga's Celebration Square over the weekend.
It's number one top most exciting thing that has ever happened to all of us. And actually it was my daughter who said that, she came to the celebration event yesterday and she was like, this is the number one top moment of our lives. And I was like, absolutely.
Now pulling out of storage sketches like this that her daughter drew, once again, she says, to be hung with pride.
He's a famous freedom fighter who sadly died, so he's someone we remember today. All the lives that were lost to get us to today, we remember them.
And while Al-Muqdad and other Syrians know it'll be tough, he has a message for the world.
People, they are worried about Syria, how Syria is gonna rebuild. I told them, so Syrians, they are strong and they're gonna rebuild it.
For the first time in decades, he says Syria has a bright future. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. A new report is drawing attention to the financial burden faced by many cancer patients here in Canada. It turns out they and their families have to spend thousands of dollars on expenses not covered by our universal healthcare system. Jennifer Yoon has those details.
When Vanessa Percoco was diagnosed with advanced colorectal cancer at 31, she expected to take time off work. What she didn't expect was that fighting the disease would be so expensive.
Medication, colostomy bags, going to the hospital, the gas, the parking tickets.
Throughout 2 years of treatment, she paid more than $4,000 out of pocket for prescription drugs alone and struggled to pay her bills.
I was like, should I get the medication to feel better during chemo, or should I keep the money to pay my rent?
A new report from the Canadian Cancer Society suggests she's not alone. Across Canada, patients and their loved ones spent approximately $7.5 billion in 2024 on cancer-related expenses. Out-of-pocket costs include transportation, medical devices, drugs, and more. All this adds up to an average of approximately $33,000 per patient.
There are individuals that are at lower income or fixed income, individuals in rural and remote locations, which can really feel this impact.
Some say it's a wake-up call.
We need to have some very serious discussions about this to ensure that we have equitable access.
Many patients who can't afford extra costs turn to fundraisers. On GoFundMe alone, thousands of people are looking for help, paying for housing, travel costs, or treatments that aren't covered by Medicare.
Not everyone is fortunate enough to have family that supports them, or or have a community that is able to provide that extra support.
Experts are hoping this report starts a conversation and gets policymakers to take action so cancer patients don't have to rely on the generosity of others to fight the disease. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto's Michael Garron Hospital is celebrating the grand opening of its brand new pediatric facility. The Child and Youth Centre has over 20 clinics inside its space, including one led by midwives. Brittany Billette has the details.
We're really excited for the new space.
Michael Garron's Child and Youth Centre is the new home for all of the hospital's family-focused clinics.
We offer a range of clinics. We're pediatrics, so it can be from 0 to 18 years of age. With that said, we do have a teen gynae clinic.
The facility brings together over 20 clinics that were previously sprawled around the building. Staff say the center will not only provide convenience for families, but better care overall.
It actually brings the holistic approach together, and so that you can actually see multiple specialists at once. You can actually convene as a group to provide a much better care plan for patients and their families.
It's also the location of a brand new unit called the Family and Newborn Clinic for patients with or without a family doctor, including newcomers in the area.
This will be a multidisciplinary midwife-led clinic that will be run 7 days a week, 365 days a year, that will provide care for mothers who have just given birth and their infants in the first 8 weeks postpartum.
The 8,500 square foot space allows more families with kids in tow to navigate services easier, including this new and expanded breastfeeding clinic.
Having a space with dedicated access to lactation consultants helps not only improve our breastfeeding rates, which is something that we strive for, but also improves the patient experience overall.
The hospital's chief of pediatrics says the expansion is something staff have been waiting for at least a year.
Last year alone, we had 10,000 visits in a space that was dark and outdated. If I tell you the paint was peeling off the walls, you believe me.
The center could also help speed up care by expanding specialty services, the kinds that often have long wait lists, such as pediatric endoscopy.
It's just a testament to us wanting to be a system player, lessening the burden on tertiary care, and also bringing care closer to home and really caring for patients and families closer to home in their community.
We have dedicated OT, occupational therapy, and speech-language pathology.
The Child and Youth Centre is part of an ongoing redevelopment of Michael Garron Hospital, a project funded in part by donors and the Ministry of Health. Construction is expected to wrap up in 2026. Brittany Billette, CBC News, Toronto.
Yeah, in Kaleda, a lot of people hitting the slopes for the first time this weekend. That's nice. That was nice to see. But today, instead of snow, we got drizzle.
Yeah.
Yeah, as the warm weather comes in, so that's kind of nice.
If it do drizzle, and not so nice where it was like over that warmer air over the cooler at the surface and that freezing drizzle and freezing rain. So, it's nice that we have the lighter precipitation now or none as it's moving out. We do get into some fog though through the overnight hours, so that'll be something to watch. It'll be patchy, not everyone experiencing it, but let's go ahead and show you kind of what's coming our way. So we're into, if you look at the upper winds, the jet stream here, we're into that ridge and that milder air that's right across the Great Lakes region. But you can see there in northwestern Ontario and that deep trough across the prairies, especially the eastern prairies, that's colder Arctic air. So that's got to make its way to us too. So in the short term, we have milder conditions, but things will change around again as we go towards midweek. Overnight tonight, yes, still a bit of freezing drizzle into eastern Ontario. Primarily, we just have the cloud cover and that low-lying cloud, which becomes fog, through tonight and tomorrow morning. So could have some areas with reduced visibility. May want to allow some extra time, especially if you're in an area prone to fog development. Then we keep most of that cloud cover. Hey, the next system is coming in tomorrow night. And with it, we'll get some rain with the milder temperatures until that cold air I was just showing you arrives. Once those two meet, it turns anything over to some light, wet snow. Anything but light, though, as we look towards cottage country, towards the lee of Lake Huron, around Georgian Bay, where snow squalls just keep coming and coming. Yes, snow squalls setting up again Wednesday night into Thursday. For now, the wind's light, but you'll see they get stronger as we push this forward towards Wednesday, strong enough to drive those snow squalls. And so this isn't tomorrow. This is what I'm showing you for coming up into Wednesday, where we look at some of those totals up the Bruce Peninsula, another 10 to 20 centimeters. Hey, skiers, snowboarders, I mean, it's a delight in terms of what you'll be seeing, especially because there'll be some melt over the next day or so. Nice to see some of that powder returning. Overnight tonight, 4 degrees, 6 degrees tomorrow afternoon. Yes, the temperature coming up overnight tonight. And then after that, Wednesday night, Thursday, check out the very cold air coming our way for a few days.
Oh, I'm feeling chilly already. All right, thanks so much, Colette. And that is all the time we have tonight. Have a great night, everyone.